CURES is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi everyone, I'm Kara Sundlin. Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness for our mind, body, and spirit. And today we're talking about beating the odds of a gambling addiction. I'm here with Brian Hatch, who not only has recovered from an addiction himself, but you now help other people with specialized programs with Wheeler who are dealing with this problem that sometimes is really even hard for family members to know exist, right?
Yes, it's gambling addiction is referred to as the hidden addiction or the invisible addiction, and that's because you can't, if somebody's walking down the street, if alcohol's a use or drugs are a use, you can generally see that, but not with gambling. Unless you're looking at their bank account or they're telling you about all these financial problems, it's not going to occur to you that it might be a gambling addiction.
Right, right. So we're going to take a deep dive because it's so important that we do know that gambling is a problem for many, many people, and that those who are dealing with it might think they're the only ones, but you have some statistics and you deal with this. Like, how prevalent are gambling addictions?
The national average is 2 to 3% will have a gambling disorder, and the disorder is the diagnosis for a gambling addiction. 3 to 5% might be in that problematic range where it might be an addiction. But that sounds like a small percentage, but when you extrapolate that across the country, that's millions of people.
Yeah.
And each gambler who gambles will affect 7 to 10 other people. So then exponentially it grows the problem.
And that's the issue. I mean, all addictions can affect a family, but the gambling addiction really can have far-reaching consequences that can really affect the whole family. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've seen plenty of spouses who had no idea that their husband or wife was gambling. And all of a sudden, the bank account's gone, the 401k's gone, the mortgage is behind 3 months.
Wow.
And this is all a surprise because maybe sometimes one person does the finances in the family. Oh. And then it's a big surprise because that person's the gambler and they've been using that money to gamble with.
Yeah, is there a certain type, a demographic that gambles more than others, or it really could be anybody?
It really could be anybody. With the online gambling that we've had in Connecticut, the legalization of that, we've seen more younger people coming in because now you can do it on your phone all day long. You can play casino games on your phone. You can do sports betting on your phone.
I was telling you that I have a teenage son, and of course I'm not going to allow him to do that, but I was surprised that he knew about it and that he says he has some teenage friends who, oh, you just make an account, it's really easy. And so we know that kids are doing this illegally, and I had to have that discussion of like, no, this is like a bad thing. And he's like, well, why? I'm like, because people can get addicted, and it's really for only adults. But I don't know that people, when they see like an online sports betting game, they don't really think of it probably as something that's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, most people when they start, if they're just trying it out, place a $5 bet here, a $10 bet there on their favorite sports team, and if that works out, hooray. But it's the people who then maybe lose that $5 or $10 and then think, I have to get that money back, and start chasing their losses. And then the people who gamble continuously where it grows to a problem, those people are generally, if you're betting $5 or $10, that's not going to give you the same high as it used to.
Yeah.
So people then start at $20 and $30. And those amounts move up, and eventually people run out of money, and then they have to go to other places to find that money, and that's when people get into financial trouble with taking, money that was meant for bills, or taking out a loan, or an advance on a credit card, and then you start to dig deep into debt, and that's when it becomes a big issue.
Yeah, so the issue being that gambling can really leave people addicted because, like a substance, it activates that addictive part of our brains. It's a dopamine hit, and for some people that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, some people, they did a study years ago and it showed that the same part of the brain lights up whether you're using cocaine or gambling.
Wow.
So that same part of the brain is lighting up and getting excited over the use of whatever it is that you're doing. Gambling's a little different. It's a behavioral addiction, but it's lighting up the brain same as a chemical. So it's an actual addiction that people get, and it's more prevalent now than it's ever been in our history in the U.S. So,
is that because it's just so much more accessible? Before you'd have to drive somewhere far, or, take your actual cash and go there, and now it's easier access?
When I gambled, I was a casino gambler, so I had to go find a casino. We didn't have online gambling when I started gambling. And so I had to have gas money to go. I had to have, a chunk of time to drive there, to drive back. And now you don't need that, you know? And I'm not saying this to be funny because it's absolutely true, and I've heard people who do it, but people will gamble on the toilet.
Wow.
I mean, it's on your phone, and you take your phone everywhere. People will gamble at stoplights.
Okay. So this is why, how do we know if someone that we love is struggling?
I think the first sign is if anybody's asking to borrow money. That's generally like, oh, well, why do you need to borrow money? You know, I'd lie. I mean, gambling turns us all into liars. Every gambler I know is a liar as well, because we don't want to hurt anybody we love, so we lie about the reasons of why we need money. So I would lie and say, I need money for groceries. I needed money for groceries because I spent my grocery money on the gambling. So
yeah, okay.
it gets pretty hard, but I think the first sign, financial issues, but then it really takes a toll on your mental health as well, because people are restless because they're worrying about the money and how they're going to live. Gambling affects the wallet in a way that other addictions don't. And our, you know, money is our livelihood. It's how we survive. And if we don't have that, that's when things get really bad for somebody with a gambling disorder.
Yeah, and how could it, obviously having alcoholism or drug addiction is very impactful on a family, but it's about helping this other person, where if you're saying some people that you have helped or dealt with, they might go home to a spouse who realizes that their whole life savings is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's help available for that spouse. We treat the family member as well as the gambler with the Better Choice program.
So yeah, so that's one of the reasons we wanted to invite you here, Brian, is that Wheeler has created a Better Choice gambling treatment program. So we want to kind of get an overview. What does it even look like? How do you help people?
So the Better Choice Gambling Treatment Program is statewide, and the state's divided up into 5 regions, and Wheeler has Region 4. So we have the contract for Better Choice in Region 4. So if you're in the greater Hartford area, you'll come see us. In other regions, you'll go see other people. And they're all wonderful. We all know each other. We all talk to each other.
Yeah.
The other programs have therapists and peers just like myself as well to help people. But usually we'll just invite somebody in either to do an intake, or sometimes they'll just talk with me first to see if treatment's what they want to do. You know, how does it go? What do I do? And I said, well, you have to talk and be honest. That's the hard part. You know, the only way to get help is to be honest about your addiction and to talk about it. I'm a big believer that talking helps, and if you can talk about it, you kind of take the weight off your shoulders and put it on other people's, and they help you.
Yeah, I mean, you overcame your addiction, and you're now doing this, helping others. But if you could take us back to, were you resistant, and what would have helped you get to where you are right now? If someone's listening, how can you help them?
I started when I was 18. I was a freshman in college. And I went to the casino with some friends who just said, hey, you know, we're 18, we can get in at this tribal casino. I was in Michigan at the time. And so we all went and played blackjack, and I won. Oh. And I hear a lot of stories where people win first, because that's the immediate, I went, oh, I'm gonna make more money tonight than I'm gonna make at work tomorrow.
Okay.
And within a few days, I was going back by myself.
Okay.
So I knew within 3 months that I had an addiction, but I didn't tell anybody else. And so it's just sitting in my head, and in my head, I'm like, well, I can win my way out of this addiction.
Okay.
If I just keep gambling, eventually I'll win and my problems are solved.
So is it fair to say, if you're wondering, do I have a gambling addiction, that you probably do?
I do think that's fair to say, yes, because
Regular folks don't wonder about that.
People know. If you're worried about your money because of your gambling, you know. And then it wasn't until a friend of mine said to me when I was 24, so 6 years after I started gambling, he said, you have a problem, because he saw my behavior at the casino one night. And nobody else had ever said that to me.
Okay.
And that's what clicked with me then is, oh, people can see my behavior now.
What was the behavior? More manic, more out there, more? The
amount that I was gambling.
Okay.
And also, I happened to access his money that night, and I gambled away his money.
Okay.
So he was like...
And you were aware of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't care because I was in the casino gambling. And
okay. So very similar to when someone says, yes, I knew it was wrong, but I stole something to buy drugs, or I did this to buy drugs. Like, I just had to have the drug because they were waiting for the fix. It feels similar to the person whose only their fix would be the gambling.
Yeah, the person gambling experiences a high, and that high can be something where they're just trying to escape life. You know, that was me. I was an escape gambler, so I would go and just to get away from everything and sort of numb out and just gamble.
Okay. Were you drinking at the time too?
I was not a big drinker when I gambled.
So you might be just addicted to gambling and have nothing, and not be drinking or doing other things while you're gambling.
Well, this is how addicted to gambling I was. I didn't want to drink because I didn't want to have to get up and use the bathroom while I was gambling.
Wow.
Wow,
right.
That's where it was at.
But what you want people to realize is that this is a disease, and it's not a character defect, it's a disease, and that you often find that when people are coming to these programs that you help run, they are so ashamed. They think they're the only one, and they're not.
Yes, and that's a big thing that I hear from people. They thought, oh, I'm the only one with this addiction, so they don't know what to do. They don't realize that there's help out there for a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
Some people don't even realize what they're doing is an addiction at the time. You know, even though you're repeatedly giving away all your money and trying to win more and experiencing a high, they're not realizing that this is addictive behavior. And so when they come in, we like to let them know that there is help available, that we are that help, but there's also other organizations like Gamblers Anonymous, which is a peer-led organization where people can go and get help for their gambling. But also, there are millions of people with a gambling addiction across this country and across the world, and so nobody's alone.
Is it more prevalent between men or women, or it's the same?
I mean, anecdotally, it's the same. We see men and women. We see, I mean, people coming in right now there's a big concentration on the youth and early 20s college kids gambling, or even teenagers.
They're getting access so easily from the phones.
Yeah. And sports betting and the commercials and the celebrity influence now kind of appeal to that younger demographic. There's influencers online who stream their slot play, you know, and have 50,000 views on a video of just them playing a slot machine. And it makes other people go, oh, I could win like that guy won.
Okay, yeah. So for those of us who grew up, you know, pre-cell phone, we didn't have, you know, your parents weren't taking you to a casino. You probably couldn't even get in with at the time. And there wasn't, other than what you saw in a movie, there wasn't a lot of those visions. But the younger people getting involved earlier and maybe not even realizing the consequences, there's just so much more access and exposure to gambling now.
And we've normalized it in our society, right? By legalizing it, we normalize it. And we have commercials all day long, every day. We have commercials during Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy that say, come gamble on our platform and we'll give you $5, you know, or you spend $5, we'll get 200. And that people go, oh, that's free money, I'll do that. But there's you know, the small writing in there that says, well, you have to play this through so many times in order to get that $200. But the appeal of money, I mean, we all want money, right? Everyone's trying to do a side hustle here, a side hustle there, and gambling seems like...
So people are looking at it as a side hustle almost when they start.
Absolutely.
And they think, I can do this.
Absolutely.
I can, you know, I can beat the odds. I'm smarter than this. I mean, I had a friend who said he would go, you know, once a week to play poker as extra money. And just believe that, you know, I don't know if it would have been an addiction because it was a thing, and he believed that he would win a lot and he was good at poker. But the idea that you're going to use this as an income stream, if you're thinking gambling is an income stream, that has to be a red flag.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there are individuals, there are professional poker players.
Okay.
There are, you know, plenty of people in Vegas who are good at handicapping and can pick the winners.
Okay.
But that's not all of us.
Okay.
The rest of us can't do it.
Okay.
If you're somebody who, you know, you go to the casino once every 2 weeks, you take your $200, you're willing to lose that $200, and that's okay with you, then that's fine.
And you don't think, so the difference would be, are you obsessing over that $200? Are you thinking you're going to need to go back tomorrow and the next day, and you just keep wanting that? That would be the difference versus, oh yeah, if I come, I'm okay with it. If I don't, I don't.
People chase wins and people chase losses. You know, if I won on a machine or if I won in a blackjack hand, I'd go, oh, I can do that again.
Okay.
And if I lost, I'd go, oh, I got to get that money back. I'm going to go to the ATM. I'm going to pull out some more money and win my money back. And that's the chasing of the losses gets you into trouble big time.
So how do you treat it? How do you get better? Because you are better, right? Your life, can you talk a little bit about how you feel now and what you do? Yeah,
I haven't placed a bet in a casino in almost, next month will be 10 years.
Wow.
And
congratulations,
you know,
good for you.
My main way of dealing with it has been talking about it.
Okay, and helping others.
Yeah, I've done a podcast for a long time about gambling addiction, which has been it's my recovery tool.
Yeah.
You know, by talking to other people. It's called All in the Addicted Gamblers Podcast.
All in the Addicted Gamblers Podcast, if you want to learn about this. And how do people get help? If you're listening right now and you think, I really at least want my loved one to hear you out or something, how do we get involved in Wheeler's Better Choice Gambling?
So Connecticut has a helpline, and it's 888-789-7777.
888-789-7777. 7777.
Perfect.
Okay, all right, all sevens, like what you'd want to see in a slot machine, only it's the phone number to call. Okay, okay.
And you
we
call that number, and somebody will pick up the phone, and you'll just tell them what's going on. You don't have to tell them everything, but they are there. Some of those people have lived experience just like me who are answering the phone. And the people who are answering the phone care a lot. They work in this field because they care.
Okay.
And then from there, they will, depending on where you live in our state of Connecticut, they will send you to the correct region. And if you're within Hartford distance, you'll come see myself and Allison and Katie that I work with.
What does treatment look like? What will you do?
So people come in for an initial intake and they have to answer standard mental health and physical health questions. And then they start talking about their gambling and they'll just say, what's going on? You know, like, oh, I've been going to the casino too much. I haven't been paying my bills. Okay, well, this sounds like you might be good to be here with us. And then it's just normal therapy with a clinician who will talk about, you know, what are the reasons behind your gambling? Are you trying to escape life? Are you just after money? You know, is there something going on that you're trying to deal with and this is how you cope gambling? And so they'll look at that. They'll even, you know, the childhood. Take a look at the childhood. Did anything happen that made you want to do this? When did the gambling start? And then we'll tell them about, you know, some of the realities of gambling addiction and some of the stats. And I think the frightful stat that none of us like to hear is that gambling has the highest rate of suicidality than any other addiction. 1 in 5 people with a gambling addiction will attempt suicide.
Wow.
And that's an alarming stat.
Yes.
And so that's what we're trying to prevent.
Yeah.
Is people getting to the point, and they get that way because they've lost all their money, they see nowhere else to turn, and they think, oh, I'm probably worth more dead with my insurance money or something like that. And that's a terrible thought because we always want to help those people.
So you want everyone to know that there is help and that you can recover. And what if you think, I can't afford help? Is there available to people?
Better Choice is available at no cost to anybody in the state of Connecticut.
So
So
it's
they
free.
can come see us. Yeah, there's, you know, a little bit of paperwork, but you
Yeah.
fill that out and it's free. And if you have insurance, that'll cover it as well.
Okay. So again, you just start by calling, say the number again,
888-789-7777.
and they'll tell you where you can go and get the
And
free
that'll
treatment.
get you, yep. And they can give you all the resources as well of Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Gam-Anon is for the family member or the spouse, so if you need
Okay.
help that way.
If
And
you're
we see
familiar
family
with
members as
Al-Anon
well.
for drinking,
Right.
Gam-Anon,
Same
because
thing.
you treat the whole family. What does it mean for the other people who've been affected? How do they get treated?
So they'll come in, and usually those people just need to talk because they haven't been able to talk. They're not going to talk about it with their friends because it's their family and their financial situation, so it seems probably hard to put that out into the world. So they keep it in our room with us, and we talk about it, and we tell them we have some companies that we'll refer to about financial situations. We'll refer to Gam-Anon for people who are dealing with the issues of being a family member who is affected. But all of this just revolves around talking about it. And
Yeah.
as you talk about it, you know, in the moment when someone comes in, they want to solve all their problems right now. We can't do that, right? You're behind on your bills 5 months, you're at risk of foreclosure, your car is getting repossessed. We can't solve that in this room,
Okay.
but we can talk about ways to do it, you know? You call these creditors and work out a payment plan. Tell them what you're dealing with.
Okay, so there are resources. I want people to know if you feel like there's nowhere to go and that there's no way out of this, you're right, it's not going to happen today, but you find that people, when they call their creditors or when they do whatever, there's terms, there's ways, there's, you know, there's an exit ramp that you get out of this, and there's another day where you're beyond it.
Yeah. And, you know, some people have to go as far as bankruptcy. When I stopped gambling, I had to file bankruptcy.
Okay.
And that's, you know, some people frown on that, but again, it was something that was available to me. I wasn't going to be able to pay off what I had taken out in loans and credit card advances, and I thought, I'm going to have to work 3 jobs the rest of my life to pay this off.
So you did a bankruptcy.
I did a bankruptcy, and that still affects me to this day.
But it was a fresh start. So
It was a fresh start, and it's what I needed mentally, because I had people calling me all day long, and I couldn't take it, and I was getting down on myself.
Yeah, okay.
And people need to be released from that burden.
Okay.
And yes, everyone who gambles knows that it's our responsibility, that we were the one who gambled, but our brain was addicted, right? There was a shift in our brain that said, no, you can keep doing this, you can keep doing this. And people need to, I mean, that's addiction, that's the disease that you were talking about. And so it is a disease, and it's something that is treatable, and people come in and they talk about it and they share that weight that is on their shoulders, and it really helps them.
So you talked a little bit about the talk therapy. does it also involve medication sometimes, or what other treatment options might be used?
There are some medications that people do take. There's one known as naltrexone, which reduces cravings, mainly for alcohol, but it has been shown to work for gambling as well. So sometimes if people just can't get rid of that urge, that thought, that craving to gamble, we might try that, but not always. Usually, once people realize they're not alone, they need to do work as well. They need to stop gambling. Once you stop the bleeding, the money comes back.
Okay.
You know, because you're not bleeding it out. You have a job, you're getting income, it'll work out. You can work out payment plans. That stuff can be taken care of. But working out the harm that you cause with your partner or with children, you know, I know people who have gambled away their children's college funds, and I mean, that's got to be devastating to them that they would do such a thing, but it happens, and it happens regularly.
Wow, right. And so you help people not only get better, but even deal with maybe the shame that they're feeling.
Shame is a big part of it. Feeling that shame can really either make you keep gambling, because if I don't tell anybody and I just keep doing this, I'm going to win my way out of it. But shame also keeps people out of treatment. Like, I'm not going to go tell a room of strangers or this therapist about what I've done that's terrible.
Right. But what you found is it can be immediately feeling better, and that obviously it's very private. If you do go to these things, your boss doesn't need to know. People don't need to know. You can get help in private, and like other health other health.
Yeah, we follow the same HIPAA regulations as everybody else.
Yeah.
It's all confidential. Nobody, it doesn't go out into the world at all. It stays in the room just like any other physician or medical treatment you would receive.
Okay. So step one is, you know, you want to make sure that you at least have a conversation with someone like you and see if treatment can help. I want to make a warning to the parents out there, because I told you earlier that I had a young son who was young enough to even ask me about it. I guess if they're older and they're trying to hide it, maybe they don't tell you. But who was like, what's this? And like, people do this. And I'm like, no, that's not for kids. But more and more you're saying that teens are getting access. They're going online. I don't know how they're spending the money. I guess maybe they have a credit card, or they find a way, or they're using their parents' credit card. So what do you want to say to parents so they can be aware that their teens or college students, you were a college student.
I was a college student.
Could be getting involved. And they're not, obviously, most college students aren't making a lot of money, so it's coming from somewhere else.
But if I recall, when I was in school, and I got kicked out of school for my gambling because I was gambling and not going to class, and they said, okay, you're done.
Yeah.
And they gave me the boot. But when you go to college, when you're walking around those first few days, some of the first things you get are credit card offers from people saying, here's a t-shirt, sign up for a credit card.
Gotcha, yep, that's
Once you
true.
get that credit card, you're on your way to gambling.
So parents may not be aware.
Unless they're checking the bank account, or, you know, check in and see if your kids are going to class, check in with their bank account, make sure that your tuition money is going to tuition and not to these other things.
Okay. So whether they've gotten a credit card and they've gotten in trouble with that, or what is the legal age to gamble? Is it 21 or is it 18?
21.
Okay, so if you're in college and you're 18, you might be able to get a credit card, but you legally can't gamble, but that's probably not going to stop you from setting up an online account.
Yeah, it's 21 for the online or for the casino gambling. Some states have it at 18 for the casinos on tribal lands.
Yes.
But the lottery is 18, so anyone can go buy a lotto ticket.
Okay.
And that's, you know, the lotto, generally people aren't spending as much on the lotto, but we see people who have an addiction to scratch tickets. We see people who have an addiction to the daily numbers. Absolutely.
Okay. So if they might be playing the lottery a lot, that can also be an addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So as we're coming sort of to the end of our time together, let's recap with some action steps. If you're listening to this and you think that, gosh, I think I know someone who needs help, or I need help, the answer to that is you probably do need help.
You probably do need help, yes.
Okay. So the step one is call.
Call or find a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. If you don't want to make the call and come to treatment, Gamblers Anonymous is free to everybody. So they can find any meeting.
You just Google Gamblers Anonymous, go to a meeting, and it's all anonymous, and then you check it out. Or I'll have you shout out the phone number one more time in case someone wants to write it down.
888-789-7777.
What about a website that they should go to specifically for Wheeler or to get help throughout the state? I know you're one section, you're the Greater Hartford area. Or is there an online presence you'd like people to visit?
The best place to go is to where that helpline goes, which is to the Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling's website.
Okay. So
which is just ccpg.org.
ccpg.org. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to let everyone know, if you missed that part, the help is free. So there's not really an excuse of like, of course, if you've gambled a lot of your money away, you're thinking I can't afford therapy bills, or I can't afford a rehab, or I can't afford this. This help is something that you want people to be aware of is available, and it's not going to cost you money.
Absolutely. Yes, that is the best way to put that.
How long is the treatment usually? Is there an average time it takes to get better?
No, it's all up to the individual. You know, if coming in and talking once a week is helping you not engage with the behavior of gambling, then just keep doing that.
Yeah.
Some people, I had someone who came in and was there for 6 months, and at the end of the 6 months said, I think I'm good. I'm not going to schedule another appointment. And that's the best news ever.
Yeah.
Is that somebody thinks, okay, I can go take on the world. I can go back to my life and not have to think about gambling, or at least not have an urge to gamble anymore.
Okay.
And that's where this individual is at. And so that was great news. Some people come in, you know, we have clients who've been seen for years.
Okay.
And because they get to talk about it, so.
Okay, and so you might be someone who just gets over all your urges, or you might be someone where alcoholics often say that I'm always recovering, that sometimes those urges are just a couple inches away, but the programs are there for you so that you don't act on them.
Yeah, and I'm somebody who is still in recovery. If I go to a casino and I have no delusions that I could go and place a bet, because if I do, I will clean out my bank account that night.
So you just know you can't go to the
Oh
casino.
yeah, I know now. I had 14 years of evidence that I cannot gamble. Gambling and I don't work together.
And thank you to our lovely team here. We've got our phone number up here, 1-888-789-7777. Thank you, Jamie. And there's the website also, ccpg.org, if you'd also like to reach it. That way you don't have to write it down, just screenshot. If you're watching this, if you're listening, that's why I also like to repeat, if you're listening on the podcast, that's the number. But if you're watching on YouTube or on the wax, there it is. So people can call. Someone's always going to answer. It's got to be really valuable to have someone like you who really is going to be in that place of non-judgment, because you were there. You really know what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, people come in and I empathize because I was that person.
Yeah.
You know, most people come in, I tell them my story usually in the first session so they can get an idea of where I'm coming from. And, you know, some people I can't quite relate to. You know, I didn't do the online sports betting that exists now. I'm well aware of how it works, so I can talk to people about what they're feeling when they're placing bets, but I wasn't somebody doing sports bets on a phone, so there's a little difference, but the core is the same. The core of the problem is the same.
If you're worried about for your kids, parents, a lot of parents watch this show, what would be some of the warning signs that you need to be careful that your kids are doing this and it's a problem?
You know, if you hear them talking about the lines of sports, or
Okay.
if you hear that they're playing, you know, gambling-like games, there's plenty of gambling in video games as well.
Okay.
And that is also an addiction that gambling is sort of growing into the gambling space of online games where you can gamble, in a sense, in these online games.
Uh-huh.
And so that's, you know, video game addiction is a real thing that people should also look out for when it comes to their kids. But again, the bank accounts, and see what apps are on their phone. If you have one of those where you can look at their phones,
Yeah.
see if they have the gambling platform apps on their phone. And if they do, you might want to have a conversation, especially
Yeah.
if they're underage.
Right. And underage in this case would be
Under
under 21.
21.
Right. So as you said, this happened to you in college, and it was just as you were off, and I'm sure your parents didn't have as much access to watching you. So it's good for
Right.
parents to be aware of this and beating the odds of a gambling addiction. I hope that if this resonates with you, that you'll make that phone call. Thank you so much for being here and shedding some light on this issue.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you for talking about gambling addiction. Not a lot of people do, so we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you for watching Kara's Cures, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness. You can listen to this again on any podcast platform that you like. You can also follow me at Kara Sundlin on social media. Have a great day and be well.
CURES, sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.